What's up everybody, Bandit and Chad here for another Taco Tuesday. Now we've had a lot of questions about the upcoming 2018 Tacoma, and for those of you all that were paying attention to Toyota USA's Instagram page, you may have got a little bit of a hint as far as what 2018 may entail. Now, if you weren't really paying attention, it does just kind of look like a normal Silver Sky Metallic TRD off-road, but when you look a little bit deeper, some of the options that are shown on that truck aren't currently available. One of those is there is a little bit of a shadow across the picture so that you can't exactly make out the color, but it doesn't seem to be a metallic color. So, you know, Silver Sky Metallic, same color as Chad's truck, the one we're in right now, definitely has a good bit of a metallic flake to it. It is kind of a brighter color, I would say. This particular truck on the Instagram picture is a little bit darker than that, and it looks very, very similar to what you might find on the TRD Pros as the cement color. Now, Toyota was talking about bringing this color to market because it is such a popular color. We see it all the time on the whole TRD Pro lineup, Absolutely. Which is, you know, the 4Runners, the Tundra, and the Tacoma. That's really one of Toyota's more popular colors. And they were talking about bringing that to the TRD Sport and Off-Road trucks. So this truck does appear to have that. So if you are interested in that color, I would certainly recommend holding off a little bit because we're really thinking that'll be coming here for 2018. Yes. The other major difference that is found in this picture is the grille. So there is a revised grille that's on here. It's not the current grille that's being used on both the TRD Sport and the Off-Road. However, it does have kind of a similar look to it. Like we said, there was a little bit of a shadow across the picture, so you can't exactly make out all of the colors, but the current 2016 through and 2017 trucks had kind of a two-tone chrome looking grille. One was a little bit more of a smoked chrome, one was more of a true, you know, silvery chrome, and a lot of people like that. I personally did not, especially on a quicksand truck, which is why I swapped mine to the Bay Area Metal Fabrications grill, and I think a lot of people are also changing their grills, but hopefully more people like this one. And hopefully we'll see a little bit more of it here in the next coming weeks. We know that the TRD Sport Tundra that is being introduced here for 2018 as well is also sporting a little bit of a revised grille, and to me it looks a little bit like that. But one interesting thing is found here in the center of the grille. Right.
So in the center of the grille, and you may have seen this on Highlanders and RAV4s because they already have this feature of the TSSP package that is standard for most of Toyota's lineup for 2018. The logo is completely flat on the front. The Toyota emblem up there is no longer one that you can actually touch and actually remove by hand if you wanted to. This is going to be an integral part of the grille that you can't remove because it is what has what we guess is the radars and everything packed in up front with all the other electronics that they're using for this standard safety package. So this does pose a little bit of a predicament for people who would want a different grille, kind of like he did with his truck. The aftermarket's going to have to respond to it in some way if you want to unplug stuff and put it into a new grille. So this is going to be a little bit more difficult, but it was just something that we did notice in that Instagram picture when looking closely.
Right, and as for the current grille, and we have a video on all of this when I installed my grille, but you can take out basically 2 clips and 2 screws and remove the entire thing.
It's very easy.
It just kind of pops right out of the bumper after you do that. This one obviously will not do that because, like Chad said, it has all the sensors and front-facing cameras and everything else. And if you would get a grill, it would have a giant hole in it for a replacement. So obviously the aftermarket support will adapt to this problem, and you know, I'm sure everything will be ironed out here before too long, but it looks like you definitely won't be able to get a 2018 Tacoma with a 2016 Tacoma grill or anything like that. You know, it is going to be a revised look, revised everything else, and like Chad was saying, currently with the current grill, you can just kind of pop it out, just a couple tabs that hold in just the emblem. Now it's a full oval in the center that is just flat. You know, it's not a raised logo or anything else, and it's basically just a sticker, more or less, of what all of that looks like. So definitely some changes here. Overall good, you know, more options for the consumer, especially with the paint color, and more safety packages, at least for those who are interested, which should be a really great feature.
So this will be the last update for my truck as far as the needle bearing goes. I did get that taken care of last week, and I had a really good experience with the Toyota dealership. They took care of everything nice and easy within one day. I had dropped the truck off the day before, and then they called me the next day, midday, and said that it was ready. So I went and picked it up, and it sounds great. There's no longer that noise up front, and it makes driving around in town at those lower speeds, when you could most hear it, a lot more enjoyable. So I am very happy that it's taken care of now, and hopefully it will stay that way for the life of the truck.
Right, and moving on here into some news, the 45th Tokyo Motor Show is coming up here in a few weeks, but manufacturers are releasing some concept drawings and a little bit of information about some of the vehicles they plan on showing at that auto show. Toyota has 3 concepts, 2 of which we're going to touch on, the other of which is just a long wheelbase sedan that is only sold in the Japanese and Asian markets. That Toyota doesn't really spend a whole lot of time or money on those long wheelbase sedans here for the United States, because honestly no one really buys them. Nope. But for 2 of the more exciting concepts that they did show, the first of which is the TJ Cruiser. So we discussed the TJ Cruiser a few months ago now, I believe, and there was just a patent for it at the time for the name. Now, we were hoping at the time that it was going to be a replacement for the FJ Cruiser and be some sort of competition for the new JL Wrangler and for the new Bronco. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's the case, but it is a really interesting concept to say the least. So what Toyota is saying directly from their press briefing or whatever is they're trying to make the toolbox of vehicles, which is an interesting phrase, but what they're looking to do here is to kind of cross the usability of a cargo van with the function of an SUV. So this concept is a really boxy looking kind of mangled thing. It kind of looks similar to I guess the front end of a Land Rover Defender, kind of.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
But it's really elongated in the rear. But they're saying it will have 4-wheel drive for sure, and also be available in a 2-wheel drive variant, and have some sort of futuristic powertrain that they didn't really go into. Probably some sort of hybrid. But the interesting thing here is what they're doing inside. So inside the vehicle, it is you know, very spacious for passengers and everything else, but all of the seats rather do fold down and are of a kind of more rugged
kind of bedline.
Yeah, it's almost like a bedline texture, and that's to make it easy to clean and also durable. But they're saying that basically all the seats fold down, even the passenger seat, so you can really have all sorts of cargo room behind you. And it does have sliding van doors there for the back row. So they're saying that'll make it easy to load and everything else. But I didn't really realize that there was much of a market for a vehicle like this. You know, the Ram ProMaster and the Ford Econoline vans and all of the other sort of work utility vans seem to do it pretty much for most people, and if you aren't looking for something like that, you go for an SUV. But Toyota is trying to cross these, so we'll see how it works out for them. Yeah, that's really all we have to say about that one. But we'll be sure to post links for all of this, so you can tell us what you think in the comments below. But look in the description of the video for the links, so you can see all the pictures of this. The other concept that we're going to touch on here is the GR-HV Sport. So what it looks like to me is basically the exact body of a GT86. You know, the GT86, the BRZ, and the FRS did come out a couple years ago, and they sold pretty well, but a lot of people were complaining that they didn't have enough power. Now, Toyota was saying that they were more concerned with the handling of the vehicle, not necessarily the power, and power wasn't exactly a big deal, even though it only had 200 horsepower. But ever since then, people have been saying that they want more and more horsepower, as with everything else. And hopefully this will be the answer. So again, we're seeing a hybrid powertrain in this vehicle with more or less the same overall footprint of the GT86 and a really similar interior to the GT86 as well. But hopefully that'll offer a little bit more power for those who want it. And this poses kind of an interesting thing because Toyota was also talking about a little while ago bringing back the MR2, the Celica, and the Supra. Now, obviously, the Supra is being co-developed with BMW, and that's going to be the new BMW Z4, and we're going to, or Z5 rather, and we're going to get the Supra out of that. So maybe this will be the new Celica. They'll drop the GT86. Maybe this will just be the GT86 for people that want more power. We're not really sure about all of that, but one really interesting feature is it is an automatic, but everyone kind of has their own version of a manual override, and Toyota is coming out with their own in a really interesting way. So they're going to keep the H pattern as you would have with a manual, you know, the gated shifters and everything like that, but there's not going to be any clutch pedal, so you're just going to move the selector and it'll shift.
Kind of like a, is that what they call a sequential? Or
sequential is like what's in rally cars, where it's just straight back and straight forward.
Okay,
this does have the H pattern and everything else, so it would have dog legs and everything else.
Okay.
But you know, everyone else is going with paddle shifters or something like that. So this is a really interesting idea for a manual override. You know, you're going to act like you're shifting, but you don't have a clutch pedal, and really the vehicle is just going to shift when it wants to anyhow. Right. But kind of an interesting idea.
So for 2018, it looks like the Range Rover Sport is getting kind of a mid-cycle refresh, and there will be some additional powertrain options that we hadn't seen before. So there are going to be two V8 options. There's going to be the regular V8 and then an SVR option, which is more powerful. I believe it's up to 575 horsepower that you are going to be getting out of that power plant. And there are also some other engines that I think are offered in other markets, but I don't know if we're going to get them exactly.
Right, so they do offer a whole host of diesels, but as you all are well aware, the diesels are not very popular here in the United States, you know, after the Volkswagen scandal and everything else. But they're also going to be having a little bit of a different sort of powertrain, what they're going to call the PHEV hybrid system. So instead of doing a normal sort of hybrid setup like you're seeing in a lot of vehicles where, say, the gas engine runs the rear wheels and then you have electric motors for the front wheels or something like that, what they're going to do for here is actually put a electric motor in the ZF 8-speed transmission. So it's going to be a small motor there in back of the transmission on the output shaft of the transmission, and that's going to help provide a little bit more power. So the actual gas motor in this is a 2-liter turbo, and that paired with the electric motor is going to be good for 400 horsepower and 472 foot-pounds of torque. Now, all of that added together does get you 0 to 60 in 6.3 seconds, and it also allows you to drive up to 30 miles on purely electric mode. Now, I don't see a whole lot of people necessarily going off-road in pure electric mode, but it does kind of give you, I guess, an interesting option, and it should help you get better fuel economy, which should translate into better range, which honestly I think is the best option here, because if you could go, say, 600 miles in your Range Rover on one fill-up, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good considering how big that vehicle is.
Right. So, you know, this is a full-size SUV, you know, similar size to, say, a Tahoe, so it's not small by any means. So to get up and go that fast is pretty impressive as well, and hopefully that power will be pretty good as well.
So recently, the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration did get what looks like to be some power figures on a I guess a build sheet of the upcoming Wrangler JL, and we're kind of thrown off by the amount that was listed on there for a potential 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. Right,
so they are going to keep the Pentastar, or at least a revised version of that, here for the JL Wranglers, and that's going to be good for 285 horsepower out of that naturally aspirated V6. Now, we've been talking about a potential Turbo 4 model that will serve as kind of a more powerful version, but the power numbers are pretty staggering to say the least. They're saying 368 horsepower out of a 2-liter turbo. That's a lot of horsepower. That's
for a Wrangler.
Right, and there are no torque numbers for this, just horsepower. But, I mean, nearly 400 horsepower out of a Wrangler.
It's just kind
with a 4-cylinder turbo.
We just don't really know what to think of it, because that is something that, you know, you don't really think of with a Wrangler something. I mean, a turbo is new to a Wrangler here, at least here in the U.S. You know,
right.
I mean, that's kind of shocking to think of.
Right, and you know, most turbo 4-liters normally make, say, around 300 horsepower as a fairly high number. You know, the new Ford Focus RS, which is thought to be a pretty powerful hot hatchback, has just over 300 horsepower. This has 368, supposedly.
Right.
So we're not exactly believing this. You know, those numbers seem a little bit far-fetched to us.
Right.
But that's really the two numbers that stood out the most here for this vehicle. Now, they did release all of the other power figures for the 2018 models, and you know, it is more or less a lot of the same thing, you know, for the Grand Cherokee and everything else. But the 368 horsepower really threw us for a loop, and we're not necessarily believing that, but that is one of the theories kind of floating around here on the internet, so we thought we'd at least discuss it with y'all and kind of see what you think. You know, like we said, 370 horsepower seems like a lot to us. Maybe it is realistic, and maybe Jeep can pull that off, but we've never really seen anything from FCA that has anywhere close to those numbers.
Right, and they haven't come out to confirm. I don't know if they've come out to deny it yet,
right.
So it still remains to be seen if those figures were actually true.
Right, so certainly let us know what you think about that. But that's at least the latest of what we've heard about that, and at least we'll know fairly soon. You know, this is going to be a 2018 model that should be coming out here within the next month or two, so we'll know for certain for then, but we'll certainly keep you all up to date.
So this past weekend, we did go on a off-road trip with our local off-road club here at Virginia Tech. We did go down to Uwharrie, North Carolina, and we had a really good time. This is not our first time going. We've been before. Did we do a video on that?
Yeah, we did do a video on that.
We did, okay. So if you did see that video, take another look at it if you want to, because it was pretty much the same thing we did this weekend. But we did actually see a subscriber there, didn't we?
We did. Chad was actually in one of the other vehicles, and there was a brand new 2017 TRD off-road double cab that rolled by us, and the guy just immediately stopped, rolled his window down. I was like, I know you guys. It's like, well, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So it was really neat to meet a fellow subscriber, especially out there on the trails. So a really neat experience there, and it was great to meet you, man, if you're watching. But overall, we had a really great time. We did not take a vehicle down there. The Land Cruiser, unfortunately, is getting some more work done. Hopefully it'll be back in action in the coming weeks, but we will have an update on that here before too long and kind of let you all know what's going on with that. It's turning into be a lot of work, but hopefully it'll be pretty cool here within about a month.
That's what we're hoping. I mean, it's cool now, but it would be even cooler if it actually works.
Right, currently we have a pretty cool 5,000-pound paperweight. Yeah. But outside of that, that's pretty much all we have to talk about for this week. So thank you all very much for watching. Have a fantastic week, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
See you guys.